Welcome to the Covers' Blitz show. I'm your host, Josh Inglis, betting analyst, covers.com, joined by the man himself, Derek Carty, whose projections in football and baseball are the best in the business. Monday Night Football, 2021 NFC Championship game rematch, Rams 49ers. I think they saw each other in week 18 last year too, so there is a familiarity factor. Two solid defenses. We were talking off air. No Darrell Henderson props. After week one, everyone pretty much sold Cam Akers away. But do you think it's Cam Akers' backfield right now?
I think there's enough of a chance that it is, and especially given the conditions we're going to see in this game, where I like the Cam Akers rushing yards prop. Over, 40.5 right now? We have it 40.5 minus 115,
Points
I think.
Off market again, 40.5, but you see some 43s out there.
Yeah, so I like this quite a bit. He got 72% of the carries last week. Maybe not going to stay that high. Like, we don't know. There is definitely uncertainty here. The Blitz is actually only projecting about 60%. So if he were to get that 72% again, we'd just be off to the races. And this is a spot where it's projecting. I mean, I feel like we've had this every single time San Francisco's played this year. 20 mile per hour winds in this game. And when it's windy, teams generally lean more on the run and less on the pass. And so just there should be more volume in general for Cam Akers and for both running games.
And I like the idea that this San Francisco offense isn't really going to get up by 2 scores immediately. So game scripts should be pretty neutral on both sides, which should kind of keep the running game obviously intact. I mean, with a rushing total of 40.5 yards, Akers just needs like 3.3 yards per carry and 12 carries.
Right. That's not a lot to ask for.
That you could almost say that that's the floor of his situation, 12 carries.
Honestly, yeah, that's kind of what I would say. The Blitz here is projecting 55 yards on the ground for him. So this is a spot where I like the over, a decent bit. It's projecting 14 carries for him, I think.
They keep giving us Deebo Samuel rushing props of 30-something. And last week, 6 carries, 5 yards is more indicative of actual output than what we saw in week 1. 4 carries, and he had 151-yard rush. And he had a 27-yard rush in the other game that he went over. I'm calling it. This is the last week we see Deebo Samuel under 30s in a rushing total.
I kind of think so too. I like the under here. The Blitz is projecting 22. And I said it last week, like, he's not going to be continuing to break these long runs as consistently as he's been doing. He's been averaging like 13 yards per carry up until last week. And that just doesn't happen, especially for a guy. Yeah, he's a wide receiver, but most of his carries come out of the backfield. A lot of them are kind of traditional type carries. And, it's just, I think it's too high a number it's just based on fluky variance in his yards per carry.
Trent Williams out. The best left tackle possibly in football, graded the best running tackle per PFF last year. He's out. That is a huge thing when you're talking about a guy who runs most of his running routes to the outside and tries to use his speed to gain the edge, and now his best edge blocker is gone.
Yeah, I think that's big. And you were saying before the show, like, a spot gets blown up and he gets dropped for -5 yards. Like that can
Boom.
go a long way
towards
hitting an under here. Yeah.
Staying on the ground, Jeff Wilson over 55.5 rushing yards. You like this play. Kyle Shanahan has no issues throwing anybody back there. And you saw it last week, even versus a great defense in Denver. He topped it with 75 yards. He had a long of 7, but he still had good carries for this team who runs more than anybody else in football, not named the Browns and the Bears.
Yep. This is a team that loves to run in 20 mile per hour wind. They should be running even more. And I think it's something that maybe gets a little bit overlooked, but without Trey Lance now, like Trey Lance was a guy who would take a lot of carries himself. And that's not really the case with Jimmy G. So last week, Jeff Wilson got 62% of the carries, and that's a big number. So yeah, I think between just the running tendencies, his share of the workload, the weather conditions, I like the over on this quite a bit. The Blitz is projecting 76. So this looks like a really strong lean for me.
Boom. 3 plays Monday night. The boys are still hot out of the gates. 13-9 plus 5 units. That's leans and plays combined. I believe the plays are 8 and 3 over about 6 units. So you know what you're doing. That's for sure. Projections have been great. Baseball, NFL already. So let's stay hot. Monday Night Football. Those are the 3 plays. We'll see you back here for Thursday night, week 5 action.